Pro-life talk. Real world answers. This is Life Report.
Welcome to Life Report. I'm your host, Josh Brahm, here with two special guests today. Jonathan Keller, Executive Director of Right to Life Central California and occasional guest on Life Report. And a special friend of ours that we've never had on the show before. We've been talking about having her on for years. Kristi Burkhart, who's the Executive Director of the Fresno Pregnancy Care Center.
That's right.
The website is Care for My Body, but you've got to do the number 4. The Care number 4 My Body, because I tested this out yesterday. If you spell out the word 4, you get to another Pregnancy Resource Center website, but it's not the one in Fresno. It's in Klamath Falls, Oregon. So if you're in Oregon,
Funny.
Totally go there. But
Right.
Is that
not
Vernon Judy's?
Yes, it is.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh!
is it?
Wow,
Yes, it is.
that's
awesome.
too funny.
Okay, let me say this before we get into the show. We have pro-choice listeners, and I don't tune out the show quite yet, just because you're probably thinking, oh, they're going to do a puff show with this director of one of these fake clinics. I think you're going to be really surprised if you're pro-choice to hear the kind of things that Kristi is going to talk about. Our topic today is busting myths about pregnancy resource centers, and we're going to talk about a lot of the things that are said about pregnancy resource centers by pro-choice groups, and some of those things, whether they're true or whether they're not, or maybe true of some clinics or centers and not
Right.
Kristi's, and how Kristi thinks pregnancy resource centers ought to act. But before we get into that, for those people that don't know what that means, what is a pregnancy resource center?
Well, what we are is a local organization, depending on which community you belong to, and we offer services to the community free of charge. All of our services are free of charge. So ours offers a free pregnancy test, free limited ultrasound, resources, referrals, counseling, a mommy store, classes, all kinds of things. And again, all of our services are free.
Tell us a little bit about, because you might not want to be patting yourself on the back, but I'm going to ask you to do it, because I've been around the country speaking for pregnancy resource centers, and a lot of times the effectiveness is, there's certain kind of numbers that we look at and judge the effectiveness of a pregnancy resource center, and I think yours is pretty effective. Can you share with us some, numbers and kind of help us, get an idea of your center?
Well, we serve a large geographic location and a large population here in Fresno, and we're the only organization here that does what we do. So you look at other centers in areas like Los Angeles or Chicago or New York, and there might be many organizations that are serving that populace in that region.
Okay.
But for Fresno, we're the only one. So we're actually seeing about 450 client visits a month.
A month?
Yes, a month. So a couple days ago, because I get a number on my desk, we served 32 clients. We did 22 of those clients were a pregnancy test. The other 10 were coming in for possibly their ultrasound exam, or maybe they needed resources, or they attended a class.
That was in one day.
In one day.
How many
Yes.
are you seeing a year then?
Upwards of 5,000 client visits. Now, we can count a client more than once depending on what she's coming in for. So we wouldn't count her twice in a day, but we might count her twice in a month because she has more than one visit.
Okay.
But the number of people that we're serving, individual people, is over 2,000 a year.
There's a few questions I'm going to be asking you today that come not from me, but from other listeners of our show.
Yes.
And one of our Fresno listeners, Clinton, is asking, what services does your center offer? And do all pregnancy resource centers offer the same services across the board, or is it different depending on the pregnancy resource center?
It's different depending, because there's actually two different kinds of centers. There's pregnancy resource centers that are non-medical, and then there's pregnancy medical centers like ours here in Fresno that have gone medical, and we have a license from the Department of Health Services. We operate under our medical director, a doctor here in town. We have nurses on staff, sonographers on staff, and volunteer nurses. And so we're a medical center. So some of our services might be a little bit different. I think that the consistent thing is across the country, most pregnancy resource centers, whether they're medical or not, are going to offer that option counseling, a free pregnancy test, but some of them might be a self-test that the girl administrates and reads herself. And then they're also going to offer some of those resources and referrals.
Okay.
And possibly classes.
And what are the extra services that pregnancy medical centers like you also offer?
So we offer that pregnancy verification. The test is run by a nurse. we offer the ultrasound, and then depending on the center, they might offer STD testing or longer term care than what we offer. We do a short term supply of prenatal vitamins, prenatal education, and get them established with a doctor in our community who sees them through the rest of their pregnancy. There are a few centers across the country that even offer some of those services, those longer-term pregnancy services.
And one of a lot of times when people that are maybe not friendly to the pro-life message talk about pregnancy resource centers, there's kind of this attitude of they just want to save the baby. They don't care about the mom or what happens if she chooses life. What happens to your clients if they choose life? Is it kind of see you, don't let the door hit you on the butt on the way out, or is there an ongoing relationship that happens? And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, our goal really is to have an ongoing relationship with her. We want to see her. Our goal is to have her come back as many times as we can provide something for her. So we're always looking for ways to provide more to our clients, which is why our center has childbirth classes, nutrition classes, parenting classes, and classes for dads. So it's far beyond that, plus the resources, the mommy store. I think that we never want the door to hit her in the butt as she walks out, because we really would rather her stay. Because we love babies, yes, we do, but we love women, and we want to advocate for women and be there for women even more so. I mean, that's what attracted me to this line of work, was serving women.
In the mommy store, it's not just like diapers and baby, like you're giving it like car seats.
Yes,
I mean, I just had my third kid. I mean, car seats are expensive.
Yes, they are. And it seems like you need a new one every now and then. So starting with one that you aren't purchasing is a huge benefit, especially for some of these girls that really don't have an easy way. Some of the times they're looking for somebody to bring them a car seat to get their child home from the hospital. And ours is an earn while you learn. So they take any 10 classes, any of the 10, and they earn a free car seat.
Like parenting classes and stuff like that?
Right. The parenting, nutrition, childbirth, any 10 classes that they want to attend towards that car seat. Plus they're earning points.
I was just going to say I actually really appreciate that, because I know one of the things that I hear sometimes, and I know you hear it when we're out on campus with Justice for All or 40 Days for Life, is exactly that we care about the baby, but then what will we practically do to provide those resources? And I really like the fact that it is an earn while you learn. So it's not just a giveaway, but it's something where they feel like they're investing in a healthy, happy future for their child and for their family.
Well, not only that, is they're learning how to care. Right, because that's the point, is we want to help prepare them as a family even, because our classes aren't just available for the moms, it's available for either their boyfriend or their mom or their sister, whoever it is that's going to help them parent this child is asked or encouraged to come to the class as well, because we want more effective parents out there.
Thomas from Fresno asks, what background do your counselors have?
Well, first of all, our counselors are client advocates. They're not considered counselors.
Okay.
There are some on our staff and on our volunteer list that are marriage family therapists or clinical social workers. But the majority of our volunteers and staff members have gone through our extensive training. It's 8-week training, 20 lessons, and we do observation, role playing, all kinds of things to prepare them. And it's specific to unplanned or crisis pregnancy work. Okay. So it's not general counseling. And we really don't allow our counselors to go into other areas of counseling in the counseling room, or our client advocates.
So there's a document that a lot of people have seen, and I was going through it again yesterday, that the National Abortion Rights Action League put out, kind of talking about their, these fake clinics,
Right.
And one of the things that I thought was interesting as I read through this document to see what exactly they're saying, because they've done these things where they've sent people in into some pregnancy resource centers that maybe they've got a lot of things to say about their experiences, and they talked about misinformation, and it seems like this is like the main thing they're saying, is that you go into these clinics and they're giving you false medical information. But they were pointing, and they were talking specifically about 3 things. There's like, okay, well, what misinformation is happening? I mean, I've said things before that Lynn and I later do more research and like, oh wait, so I've made so many apology videos or taking back things I've said. It's like, it's ridiculous. So they're talking about three things mainly in their actual document. Like, this is the misinformation that they're hearing some centers talk about. And I want to know how you guys handle these three things. The idea of the abortion breast cancer link. Yeah, that if you have an abortion, especially first pregnancy, there's a higher risk of breast cancer later. Post-abortion syndrome, and when they said post-abortion syndrome, I think they were talking about mainly like the emotional side of after abortion, depression or things like that. But then also the idea of like a physical effect that some women might have a harder time getting pregnant after an abortion. So tell me about how your center handles those three issues.
Well, first of all, because we do counseling, pregnancy counseling, and we're going to go through 3 different options with them, we don't spend the majority or all of our time on the abortion decision. So in other words, when a girl comes in and takes that pregnancy test, we're going to talk to her about what would parenting look like for her, what would making an adoption plan look like for her, and what about abortion? What does she know about abortion? What would she like to learn about abortion? Okay. So if she says, if we say, do you know anybody that's had an abortion? How are they doing with that? What do you personally know about abortion? Because our goal really is to ask questions and listen more than do all the talking. Then we might ask her, do you know the procedure? Do you understand the procedure? Would you like us to explain that procedure to you? We're not going to use graphic pictures. We're not going to pull out a video and show her, not at our pregnancy center at least. And we're going to then talk to her about her risks. In that list of risks, which it's not a list, it's actually in paragraph form, in those risks, there might be some mention of a possible link, and there might be some mention of some women experience problems. Yeah, XYZ. But that's not going to be our focus. Our focus is going to be helping her look at each of her options and figure out which option really is best for her. And when we talk about abortion, then, there's some risks. I mean, I have told clients, look, doctors are very good that are performing abortions at doing those abortions. It's like an appendectomy. You know what I mean? Right. They know what they're doing. So the risks of perforating the uterus or infection are going to be just like they are with any other medical procedure. Right. But that's really not the issue as much as these other things. Right. And I think that when we deal with it at that level, it's factual. It's factual, just like a doctor is going to go over the risks with having any kind of surgery. Right. But go ahead.
One thing you said when we were preparing for the show was that your center specifically, and a lot of the centers that are very careful about making sure their clients do not just go off the cuff. Your client advocates don't just go off the cuff when you're talking about statistics. Can you mention?
Well, okay, we have a book that we use, and we require our client advocates to read the paragraphs in those books when it's concerning the abortion procedure or the risks. And the reason that we do that is so that they're not quoting statistics that are false, so that they're always giving the same information regardless of where they're at about the issue, that we're controlling the quality of care that we're giving to each client and making sure that it's factual information. And that information is updated on a biannual basis that's including any new research or studies, so that even that we make sure we're updating.
And people can find this book. I mean, I've bought this book for several counselors. It's Before You Decide. It's on CareNet's website. You can purchase it yourself. It's got citations for all the things that are in it. Right. And I'll just say, I agree. The thing about them updating it, that's really true. And I recently bought it, and they sent out a thing that had, hey, we've updated this one paragraph, so here's these free labels, this like document with these color label stickers, and I had to download those and print them so we could put them in all the books, because there's this one new thing that they're really good about that.
They are. They're very careful about that, and it's coming up for time to renew it. And really, that book is like an encyclopedia on abortion and the risks and the procedures, each procedure. And we're not going to go through that whole book with each client. Right. We're going to know the book ourselves so that we can identify where she's at in the pregnancy. So if she's at 8 weeks, we're going to read to her a paragraph based on what type of an abortion she would have at 8 weeks.
If she asks you about abortion information.
If she wants that information, we're first going to say, can I tell you about this? Would you like to understand this? If she says, actually, no, I don't want to talk about it, then we're going to respect her view on that or her decision. Because again, she's in an emotionally distraught place.
Right.
And giving her information that she's not ready to hear is not helpful. It's not helpful to her, and it's not helpful to what's going on with her body or the unborn life in her.
As I was preparing for the show, I went and looked to see if Planned Parenthood's website had a web page about they're still calling them crisis pregnancy centers, and they do, and they have a list about they have a bullet point list of like 6 things that they're kind of warning women to stay away from these quote unquote fake clinics, and they've got here's some of the things that you might experience. So I'm just going to go through them one by one with you, and I want you to tell me how whether your center does any of these things or how do they handle it. According to Planned Parenthood's webpage, this is these centers may not give you complete and correct information about all your options: abortion, adoption, and parenting.
That would be true, Josh. We might not. If she closes a door, we're not going to force it open. So when we want to talk to her about parenting or adoption, usually the parenting is a no-brainer. They kind of want to discuss that. Adoption, a lot of times, that is a lot of girls shut that door. They cannot imagine making an adoption plan. They think it's cruel. They think it's uncaring. So I might say to a client, what do you know about adoption? What makes it easy or hard? And if she says, you know what, I would never do that. I think that is horrible that you could give your own child away. And there's another side to that.
Right. But you're not going to then have an argument with her about whether it's a horrible thing. You're just going to.
No, depending on how she's responding to me, I might say to her, I have an adoption story. Can I share it with you? If she says no, I'm going to move on.
Yep.
So then in my view, I have not shared with her all the information that she needs on that.
Right. Because you're caring about her and responding to her, not just going through this script that you're going to do with every single person.
Right. So then I'm going to ask her about the abortion. Is, that decision, because every pregnancy is going to end in one of those 3 things, unless it ends on its own in miscarriage. So it's going to end in parenting, making an adoption plan, or termination. Every pregnancy is going to end in one of those 3 things. So then I'm going to ask her about the abortion possibility. And if she slams that door shut, I'm going to respect that.
Second bullet point on Planned Parenthood's website, these centers may try to frighten you with misleading films and pictures to keep you from choosing abortion.
Our center in Fresno and the majority of the centers across the country do not use graphic pictures. In fact, I'm careful. We don't have pictures in the center of babies, even happy, healthy babies, and cute little pictures, just because if you are already post-abortive or if you're experiencing an unplanned pregnancy, a crisis pregnancy, even those cute, sweet pictures are emotionally manipulative. We just don't have graphic pictures of abortion. I don't like to look at them. So that, again, that's manipulative.
Okay, these centers may lie to you about the medical and emotional effects of abortion.
Well, we kind of already talked about that with the Before You Decide and how we handle even talking about that issue.
These centers may tell you that you are not pregnant even if you are.
I cannot believe that anybody would do that. I don't understand the philosophy about not telling them that they're pregnant. We won't do a pregnancy test, and we do the same test that everybody else uses, but we want them to be 30 days out from their last menstrual period, from the beginning of their last period, before we'll even run a test. We tell them it's too early because we want that HCG level to be conclusive. And the reason that we want that is because we don't want to give them a false reading one way or the other.
Right.
But when you do a test, you never conceal the results.
Never. No. No.
The Planned Parenthood's webpage says that these centers may discourage you from using certain methods of birth control that are very safe and effective.
I would say that if the conversation comes up regarding STDs or regarding birth control, because really they're not in there to discuss birth control, they're in there for a pregnancy test.
Right.
So really it's with our negative test clients that we might talk to them about. So if you don't want to be back in here for a pregnancy test, what would be some solutions for you? And And we're going to talk to them about condom effectiveness and about how condoms protect you or don't protect you from sexually transmitted diseases. But when it comes to other contraceptives, we're going to only allow the nurse to talk to her about that if she has questions and wants to talk about that. And we're really going to recommend that she sees her doctor for that. Because our medical director isn't on site, our nurse manager and nurses are. But that's really a discussion that she needs to have with whoever the prescribing physician is going to be. And we're not the prescribing physician.
The last thing on Planned Parenthood's webpage, it says that these centers may trick you with false advertising, like implying that they have a full range of healthcare services when they don't, or unbiased counseling when they don't.
We talk about having counseling for all of your pregnancy options. Actually, our advertising really doesn't cover a whole lot. I mean, how much can you get into a TV ad, a radio ad, or on a billboard that people read as they're driving by? Basically, we want to make sure that they know up front that we don't provide or refer for abortion. We want to make sure that they understand that we have limited medical services. So on ours, we'll say free pregnancy test, limited ultrasound. I don't know how on any of ours what we would be doing that is coercive. We do watch that, along with our national affiliates are always training us on how to make sure that there isn't something in our ads, Google ads, any of our ads that would be false advertising.
I want to ask a question, just a quick follow-up about that. You mentioned earlier that the booklets you get, the Before You Decide booklets, come from CareNet, and then you just mentioned the national accredited organizations. Everyone knows about Planned Parenthood. They're obviously a huge national organization. A lot of people might think, oh, great, sure, the clinic in Fresno, Pregnancy Resource Center in Fresno doesn't do those things, but there's no governing body that does anything for the national centers. Can you talk a little bit about CareNet and NIFLA and Heartbeat International, all that type of stuff?
Yes, so there's 3 basic organizations that help the local resource or medical centers, pregnancy resource or pregnancy medical centers, with their training, with their legal issues, with conferences, with training manuals, board governances. They really help us with all of those things. And we've mentioned those 3 organizations. The fees to be a member of one of those organizations is anywhere between $350 and $500 a year, so it's very minimal. They are also nonprofit organizations, and
but their main goal is just like Planned Parenthood would be. They're really kind of a protective governing board, and their goals are the same as your goals.
Absolutely.
They want all pregnancy centers to be
the
like
same.
Yours.
Right. In fact, to be part of one of their organizations, we have to post our care of competence and our quality of care out in our lobby and in our foyer, and we have to sign off that we're abiding by those. So I know that there's pregnancy resource centers and I don't think there's medical centers, because that's the other thing is once you go medical, you also have your states, like we have our state license to be a medical facility. But there are rogue pregnancy resource centers out there, and those are the ones that aren't abiding by those guidelines, and they aren't they're the ones that, along with everybody else, I'd like to see disappear.
So you mentioned that you can go to a website, thecrisisproject.org or com or whatever, where it's like there's these it's kind of live action Lila Rose style videos
absolutely.
where they've gone into these pregnancy care centers and they're trying to say that look what happened here, this awful counseling session happened, or this inaccurate information was given, and so this is why we need to get rid of all the pregnancy resource centers. Right. You're saying those aren't CareNet centers; those are.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't tell you that they are or are not CareNet centers. Because how do you qualify that each center is really abiding by those rules? I can tell you that when I see those, and that the majority of the centers that in fact, all of the centers that I personally have been in, or that I have friends with staff or executive directors across this country, they're not doing that. So when I looked at those videos, I was ashamed and I was frustrated, and I'm using those videos to train my client advocates and my staff, and making sure, I want you to tell me in this video what things happened that should have never happened. And if they can't identify it, then they're going to be watching it again. Like I want you to be able to identify there are 3 things basically that happened in this video, and there are 4 things that happened in that one. And I'm not going to tell them how many. I'm just going to say, tell me what happened that shouldn't have happened.
Right.
And because I understand if that's what's happening, then there's a reason for people to be complaining.
See, this is why it makes sense to have Kristi on our show, because you react to these videos the same way I react when I see really bad pro-life people videos saying awful things. So some people say that pregnancy resource centers offer unwanted spiritual advice.
Well, here's the deal, is that, like I talked about how we don't always get to give all the information on options because our clients shut the door to that, then we also want to respect them when it comes to God. So yes, in every counseling session, because our country and our society, there is faith and there is culturally, there is God intertwined in everything and in all the decisions that we make. So at some point in the conversation, towards the end, we want to ask her, where does God fit into this for you? And with her feedback, it depends on if we have a discussion. If she says, I don't believe in God, then we might say, well, why not? Just to get her perspective, or what do you know about God? But again, sometimes she'll tell us and you can sense that there's nothing else to say. You got to let it go. And we really want to respect her, because this isn't about converting anybody. This is about loving her, and in loving her, saving a baby.
How do you want the general public to perceive your pregnancy resource centers and pregnancy resource centers in general?
You know, my hope is that when you hear about a pregnancy resource center, that you understand that our goal, my staff's goal, and my volunteers' goal is to love women, that we are pro-women. And I think that takes back, in fact, to be honest, I would say take the political thing out. I'm also pro-choice. God gives us choice. I don't want to take anybody's choice away. I want to educate them, and I want my center to educate them so that they can make a decision that they know all the ramifications to. Parenting isn't easy. Making an adoption plan isn't easy. Obviously, terminating a pregnancy is not easy. The outcomes are what are different. The joy that you get, the benefits that you get. So when we can educate on those choices, and they can make a choice that they're happy with and comfortable with, then we can move on.
Kristi Burkhart is the Executive Director of the Pregnancy Care Center in Fresno. You can go to their website at care4mybody, care4mybody.com.
And they have a second website, care4pcc.com as well.
Oh, that's
our
great.
Ministry site.
care4pcc.com. I'm Josh Brom, and that's our show. Thanks for watching.
You've been watching Life Report, pro-life talk, real-world answers. Life Report is produced by Right to Life of Central California. Visit their website at fresnoprolife.org.